Hi everyone, as promised, I'm going to go through Great Expectation code and let's see how it goes. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create a virtual environment. So I'm using Python, I think 3.12, Python -m venv. As that installs, I already have a sample data here, which is a data that contains date, gender, and age for just showing you how this Great Expectation is going to handle validation for this data. So I have my virtual environment created. I'm going to activate it. Then I'm going to install the packages that I need. So I'm going to need Great Expectations. And I'm going to need pandas. So we're going to import Great Expectations. Great. I think it is great without an E. So we're going to need pandas, and we're going to need we're going to use pandas, and we're going to use Great Expectations for this tutorial. So install them, create the virtual environment the same way that I'm doing, and then we are going to read this data, and then we're going to do some validations on it. So the first thing we're going to do is to bring the Great Expectations for validations. Yeah, so we're going to import Great Expectations as GX. Then I also need JSON to pass data, so I'm going to import JSON or JSON, I don't know how you pronounce it. I'm going to import pandas as PD. We love pandas, everyone loves panda for working with DataFrame. Then let us read the data. So our DataFrame is going to be pd.read. It is a CSV, and the CSV file here is sample people data .csv. I'm going to print this out just to be sure that I have my data frame. So I'm going to print df.head and making sure that everything is working properly. So I'm going to run this Python validate people data.py. It's taking a bit. That means something could be wrong. As it is running, I could be, let's continue writing code. So now we need to set up Great Expectation context. This is going to be like our workspace. Yeah, our data frame as shown. I don't know why it took long. So let's create the context. So the context is going to be context is Great Expectation dot get context, and we are setting this context. Think of it as our workspace. So we're going to be working within that context. Our data source. So data source. Remember from the theory, we have to define our data source first. So our data source, and also if you have not watched the theory, go and check the theory first, then you come back here. Yeah, I think that would be much easier for you to follow. So our data source will be our data source will be from context. So I'm going to get context dot data sources, and that method we're going to add pandas. Yeah, we add pandas, and then I'm just going to name it pandas. So this is just the name of the data source, pandas. Yep, so the next thing we're going to do is to define the asset. So our data asset is going to be so data source. Yeah, we are getting an asset from the data source, and we're going to add pandas, add data frame asset. And our data frame asset, I'm just going to name it also, and I'm going to name this as, let me just call it a pandas data frame asset. So pd data frame asset. So for pandas, it is already a flat file. You can define its source as pandas and then its asset as the same thing, because it's different from a data source like a database, which has several other flat files, like tables or a query itself. So for this, it should not confuse you, because data source, you define where the data is from, and then the asset is the data itself. Next, we're going to define the batch definition. Basically, this is our chunk of data to validate. So batch definition is going to be, we start from the asset, so data asset, and then we add batch definition from the whole data frame. So we just want to use the whole data frame. So add batch definition from the whole data frame, and I'm going to call this one batch definition. The next thing we're going to do is to now give the parameters for our dataset. So I'm going to say, we're going to define the batch, sorry. So the next thing we're going to do is to define the batch. But I want the batch to be, because the batch is the data itself. So I'm going to say that my batch is going to be from the batch definition. So my batch definition dot get batch, and the batch is going to be, we pass the parameters, so batch parameters, and the parameter is just the data frame for our case here. So data frame, and our data frame, we already imported it up here. It is referred to as df. So this is our data frame. Let me first create a suite. So the validation suite, like a group of validations, and I'll be putting the validations together. So it'll be context dot suits dot add, and then now we have great expectation dot core dot expectation suit dot expectation suit, and this we are going to call it an expectation suit. So expectation suit is just a group of expectations. So we are just defining it now, and then we are going to define the expectations and add them to the suits later. To the suit, later. So I'm just going to call this expectation suit. Again, go through the theory, you will get to understand what's going on here. So the first thing we're going to do, I want to validate age. So I'm going to say, I'm going to add into the suit the validation itself. So in that suit, I'm going to add expectation, and the expectation I'm going to add will be a column values between. So I want great expectation dot expectations dot expect column values to be between something. So expect column values to be between. Yeah. So I expect the column values for gender. I mean for age, I want this column age. So the column is here. And I want people, I want my data to have people who are having the minimum value of their age being 18 and their maximum value of their age being something like 70 is young, maybe 100, yeah, or 120. There are people who are more than 100. So yeah, I expect this is now my expectation. So if I have data with age of people who are below 18, then it will give me that report. If there are people who are above 120, it will give me that report. Let's add another expectation. I don't know, I should add another one. I think one more is enough. Suit dot add expectation, and now the expectation is going to be great expectation dot expectations, and then I want to work with gender, so I want to expect the column value lengths. Yeah, expect column value length. So this is like characters, the number of characters in the column value. So the column will be the column name will be gender. I'm just going to copy it from here, and the minimum value should be 4, and the maximum value should be 6. The reason where I've gotten 6 and 4 is from counting the number of characters. This is, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 for male, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for female. Yep. So if we have something that has characters more than that or below that, then it should throw an error or give me a report. Yeah, I think this is enough. So now let's do let's tie them together in a validation definition. So our validation definition will be from context still. So context dot validation definition. Validation definitions, we're going to add, and I don't like those things. We're going to add the batch definitions and the suit. So great expectations dot core dot validation definition dot validation definition, and then we're going to say that the name of this validation definition is just validation definition. Just, you can be creative. I'm not so creative. Validation definition. Then our data will come from batch definition. Remember, we defined our data there. So our data is going to be from batch definition. Where did we define this? Is somewhere here. our batch definition is here, and it has our assets and the definitions here. So it's like you're setting up everything. Yeah, so and our batch is here with our dataset. So our data is coming from the batch definition and then our suit. So this is the collection of the expectations is the suit that we defined. Then now we need to have our checkpoint, which will help us to run everything. Yeah, it helps us to run the definition. So checkpoint is going to be from context. Remember, everything is coming from context. Dot checkpoints. We're going to add, and now we're going to add checkpoint. So it is so verbose. That's why I don't like using great expectations, but you need to learn it in case one day you land into a code base that has this thing. It has happened to me once, twice, I think. So great expectation, checkpoint, dot checkpoint, dot checkpoint, like 3 times, and then we're going to say the name will be context. We are very creative with our names. And then the validation definition is the validation definition. So validation definitions will be this validation definition that we defined up here. It's inside a list. You can have more validation definitions. So now we're going to run the checkpoint and get the results. So let me just call it checkpoint results. Again, very creative. So that will be checkpoint results. Checkpoint.run, sorry. Checkpoint.run. And then what are we running? We're running with the batch parameters. So batch parameters will be the batch parameters. Why don't I have batch parameters defined? I think I defined batch parameters somewhere up here. No, I didn't define batch parameters, but these are the batch parameters. Sure, batch parameters is that. Then I want to get the results, and I want to print out the result or do something else with the results. So results from the checkpoint is going to be checkpoint results dot describe. So I can do something with this result. I can have it be a report. I can have it be, I can make it fail a runtime of code and so forth. Let's make it fail a runtime of code. So we say if it is not success. So JSON, remember why we loaded JSON, dot loads, and then result. I want this result. I'm just going to copy it and paste it. I want success. So if it is not successful, then do something. I can raise maybe an exception, and the exception message should be result. Yeah, and I think we're done. I can make it a bit less big. And this is our code for validation. We're just validating 2 columns. So I can run it again. And this time round, we are told that this is not here, so this should be, I need to first change this to JSON and then get the success value. So if this success is false, then it's the one that will raise that exception. Yeah, so here we have validation result for something that was false, and you can now start reading it. So we have, it is not successful because of something. We can try to find out why. So it's false, validation expectation is false. The column length values should be between something. So this failed because I think there is something wrong with the gender somewhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can't tell where. Let's check. Yeah, so it is telling us that this one failed. I couldn't check. Well, yeah, but that is how you write a great expectation validation script for your data. I hope you've learned something. Until next time, take care.